Thanks, everyone. So as Linda mentioned, my name is Nathan Gerred. I'm the VP of Marketing at Saturn Lounge. We're a full-service creative marketing agency. We have everything from in-house photo, video, to design, branding, logo, and full marketing strategies. So what my goal here today is to talk to you about 10 best practices to maximize your website. So as I was saying, my goal really is to give you a high-level overview of things that you want to think about, whether you're building a brand new website from scratch, redesigning or refreshing your website, or you just feel like your website's been stagnant, stale, and are looking for some ideas to move to the next chapter. So the first thing I want to talk about is user experience. Really, at the heart of everything you do as a business, you should start by putting your customers first. A successful website really lies with a seamless user experience, whether that's on desktop, mobile. It should be a joy to navigate. We're going to talk about 3 things with user experience. First, user-centric design, mobile responsiveness, and then intuitive navigation. These are all elements of the foundation of a website that's going to keep your users engaged, satisfied, and then obviously move them towards the final goal. So, user-centric design. In order to create that seamless user experience, it's really important that you understand them from the inside out. So every design choice that you're making should be done with a deep understanding of your audience. So before you embark on any kind of redesign or fresh design, you should start with understanding your audience's preferences and specifically their pain points and the information they're looking to seek out from your website or your business. Some tips for intuitive navigation. So if you've ever been to a website and spent 5 to 10 seconds trying to figure out where to go, you've probably left that website and looked for a better resource. That's very true in the business world. So there's a few key things that you can do to make sure that your users don't run into that issue. First, well-organized menus and logical categories. So if you have multiple services or multiple products, making sure that the way that those items are categorized in that main primary navigation menu is important. There's also user-friendly features like breadcrumbs and then search as well. As you build your website out, prioritizing that clarity and that intuitiveness, just making sure, and sometimes giving it that gut check. Putting it in front of fresh eyes and giving a user a task and saying, hey, we want to test out how easy this is to find this information. Can you spend a couple minutes on this website or this design and tell me how it works out for you? Mobile responsiveness and accessibility. So if you're a business-to-business company, nearly half of, or a little bit more than half of your traffic is going to be visiting via mobile device. If you're a direct-to-consumer or business-to-consumer website, it's a much larger, more significant portion than that. So we want to make sure that we optimize that website for all screens. There's a couple different things that when we look at responsive design principles that are really important to keep in mind. First, that layout should be dynamically adjusted to fit all devices and all screen sizes. That's things like touch-friendly buttons, making sure your fonts are legible, and then making sure that your images are optimized to load on those devices. So if you've ever opened a website on your phone and noticed that either some images weren't loading or it took 5-7 seconds to load, that's an issue and your user is going to bounce. In this day and age, mobile responsiveness is important not only from a user experience perspective, but also from a search engine perspective. As your website score goes down from a mobile responsiveness grading, search engines are going to devalue that website and push those further down on the search results. So page load speed, this is also a critical component of that user experience. As a lot of research has highlighted, if your website takes over 3 seconds to load, a large portion of your users are going to bounce. That's a significant abandonment rate just for a slow loading website, but today we are really conditioned to expect things immediately and quickly. And that goes for desktop as well as mobile. Optimizing those load times is really important for, again, like I said, that user experience, and then also boosting conversion rates. So imagine if you're going from point A to point B and it takes 12 seconds, or it could take you 5 seconds. That can be the difference in a lead or a lost lead. So we're going to talk about a couple different tools. So Google PageSpeed Insights and Core Web Vitals are really great tools to utilize. What those do, will take a look at your website and give you some real feedback on how long it takes to load, how long it takes to become interactive, and give you a grade. Along with that, it's going to give you some tips and areas where those improvements can be made on your website that you can either take to a web developer or take in-house. You should be looking at these on a regular basis as your website core theme or any of the plugins that are used are updated. That will affect things on your website. If you're keeping your website up to date from a content perspective as well, those things can shift over time, so it's definitely not a set and forget. I would do this on a quarterly basis just to do a gut check on how your website is performing. I'll put this further away next. So some real techniques for improving your loading times: compressing images. Saturn Lounge is a creative agency, and we love using big photos and high-res images and a lot of video. Putting those directly into the website isn't always the greatest for load speeds. So you can compress those images down to a mobile safe and a web safe size. There are a lot of tools depending on the CMS that your website is on. There are a lot of tools that can make that automatic. You don't have to go into Adobe and manually compress every image before you put it into your website. You can load all of your images to your website at once and then simply compress them all in one shot. Additionally, any other file size or file formats that you're putting on there, browser caching to store those resources locally, and then minimizing any requests to the server. These are usually things that your web developer are going to take and implement for you. So, compelling content. It's important that you're delivering content that's valuable and relevant and engaging for your target audience. When we go back to the user-centric design, it's really important to understand what your audience's pain points are and what they're looking to gain out of visiting your website. So before you're laying out any sitemap of your website, take a beat and ask yourself, what kind of questions is your audience asking before they're visiting your website? Or what questions are they asking in order to get to your website from an SEO perspective? Some really great tools that have just come out in the last few years. ChatGPT is a great place to start to ask, what kind of questions are consumers asking before they're picking out a vehicle? Or what kind of questions should I answer, should I ask when picking out a landscaping company? And anything that's relevant to your business. This is gonna give you great page information, but also maybe content for an FAQ. Visuals and multimedia, as I mentioned, do this responsibly so we're not slowing your website down, but we see firsthand, day in, day out, the impact of high quality, high production videos, images, and then things like informative infographics that are delighting the users as they're going through your website. If you've ever been to a website that's a wall of text, it is really a monotonous experience, and let's face it, people in this day and age don't want to read a novel every time they're looking to hire a pest control company. So keeping those things easy and keeping them interesting is incredibly important. SEO as well. As search engines look at your website, they know that the text on your page is important, but they're going to value a good mix of multimedia because What's Google's job? It's to serve the best results for their users. And Google knows that users enjoy a mix of words and pretty pictures and maybe a song and maybe a video. So keep those things mixed up. From an SEO perspective, as you're planning out your website, it's important to conduct that SEO research, understanding the keywords, like I mentioned, what are the questions that people are asking. This is going to give you a little bit of a roadmap for that page layout. So we know that these really important questions and really important keywords that you're looking to get ranked for, we know that these are pages that maybe deserve their own URL, their own space. Once you have that keyword research performed, optimize everything from titles, headings on your website, body text. All of these items are really important to gain visibility from a digital perspective for your brand. I'm going to go over just a few things on SEO. My background is deep in SEO. That's where I first started my career, and so I can tend to get off on some rabbit holes, so I'll try to keep it high level for everybody. So from an SEO, I really look at SEO from three perspectives: on-page best practices, off-page best practices, and then local SEO is its own kind of distinct flavor. So on-page, that's everything that's on your website. From the meta descriptions, meta titles that describe your pages to search engines, to the headings and content that are read by the visitor. Everything from the structure of your URLs and making sure that the target keywords are interspersed perfectly through your copy. These are all items of the on-page best practices. And when people think of SEO, I think this is what most people think about. But there is another side of SEO, and that's the off-page strategies. That's everything that you're doing outside of your website to boost your authority and boost visibility to your website. So that's everything from backlinks to social media promotion, as well as things like guest blogging or creating or getting user-generated content to drive more links to your website. If you think about this like anything, when you're going into a relationship, your word is only so valuable. What others say about you is equally or more valuable to someone. So especially with search engines, everything on your page is one thing, but the more people that are driving traffic and driving links to your website, the more valuable they're going to look at you. And then local SEO. So for local businesses, there's a few things that you want to keep in mind. Your Google My Business listing is number one. Making sure that listing has the most consistent and up-to-date information. One thing that Google really likes is when you provide as much information for them as possible. So making sure that that listing of yours is fully filled out with everything from hours to services offered to as many images as possible, and then encouraging those customer reviews. So again, Google likes what you have to say about yourself, but they really love what others have to say about you. Not only are those reviews really valuable for just a user experience, someone looking at a pizza place, I'm gonna look at a 4-star review with 100 reviews, better than a 4-star review with 2 reviews. SEO is going, or search engines are going to reward that as well. We have a term, it's called review velocity. So what Google wants to see is, you didn't just dump 400 reviews in at once, but you've got 5 reviews a week, 10 reviews a week. So if you're a local service business, building in review collection as a part of your sales or follow-up process is really important. And driving those users to Google is important, but there's other places as well, Facebook, Yelp. So give users the option to leave that review in whatever platform they feel the most comfortable with. You should be covering all bases from this perspective. Clear call to actions. So before you're laying out your website and before you're building the sitemap, it's really important to understand what's the goal. If you're a pizza place, it's probably to have people look up directions for you or to place an order online. If you're a larger B2B business, it may be just to have a user fill out a contact form or pick up the phone and call you. So understanding what those actions are is obviously the first step in creating clear call to actions throughout your website. And then placing those call to actions strategically throughout your website. So that main call to action, give us a call, place an order, that's typically something that you're gonna stick in the top right of your navigation. It's probably going to be bright red, maybe bright orange, something that sticks out from the rest of your color scheme. So if you're a blue and green company, don't have a blue or green call to action at the top right. It's not going to stand out. And these call to actions should be tailored throughout the customer journey. So as your marketing strategy evolves and becomes more sophisticated, you're going to understand that the bottom line call to action, the get in touch, send a contact form, order online, that's not always going to be the only call to action that you can have on your website. If you're a B2B business, this is incredibly true. Things like white papers, testimonials, case studies, these are all items that you can consider a secondary call to action. Especially if it's a really large purchase or a large purchase journey. This isn't something that someone's going to visit your website once, say, hey, yeah, I do want that $50,000 CNC machine. I'm just gonna give them a ring. No, they might wanna see some product specs. They might want to see some case studies of how you've integrated this into a full production line. So give those users that option and consider those as secondary call to actions. Not only is it great to kind of soften that sales message and give users a little bit more, make them a little more comfortable getting in touch with you, but it's also going to build that first party list. So if you've ever tried to email market to brand new users, collecting those emails is really, really challenging. You can buy a list off of somewhere on the internet, but those users have never seen your brand, never heard of you before, especially if you're integrating this into a larger marketing strategy, right? So, hey, we're running some paid ads on LinkedIn. This is one of the biggest downfalls I see on LinkedIn campaigns is we're running a LinkedIn campaign and we're getting no leads. What's the deal? Well, what's the journey here? Well, we're telling them that we sell CNC machines, and they're not picking up the phone and calling us because they want to buy a CNC machine. Well, nobody really wants to talk to a salesperson for half an hour and then have them call every week and get an email every other week. So give them valuable information so that you can take their email address and then call them every week and then email them every week. So while the bottom line conversion is important, don't sleep on the secondary call to actions. It's a really great way to create a really evolved marketing funnel. And then A/B testing. We all have our own preconceived notions with what people are going to care about, what's going to drive people to the conversion, but in this day and age, we need to let the data speak. So experiment, have some different placements, have different designs, change that color from red to neon green if you want, and try different things, try different headlines, try different offers and promotions. If you have a contact form, try taking out the 15 extra fields that aren't really important and keep it down to name, email address, maybe phone number, and try all these things to see what's the most valuable. And it should be a little bit of a mix of, well, we have a lot of leads coming in, but we need this information, and what's going to be the lowest friction to that conversion. And then as you're testing that, just make sure that you're regularly analyzing what those users are saying and what that data is saying, and experiment and optimize from there. There's a couple tools to really A/B test landing page experiences. Google Optimize is a free tool. There are another, Unbounce and Crazy Egg are fantastic tools as well, and Convert is if you're seeing hundreds of thousands of users and testing hundreds of thousands of interactions, that's a really great way to kind of level that up. So there's a lot of different tiers from free to $20, $30, $50 a month to a couple $100 a month. And depending on how much traffic you're sending to those pages will kind of dictate what the necessity is there. So social media, again, it's really important to remember that your website doesn't just live in isolation. Your website isn't something that just you build it and people come. It's a part of a lot broader digital ecosystem. So your website and your social media platforms should be really consistent, cohesive, be sending that same brand message and have a dynamic relationship. You should leverage the platforms to drive traffic between one another. Use your social media to promote your website. Use your website to drive people to your social media. And building trust through social proof. So beyond social media and social media reviews, it's really important to build confidence in any of your potential clients by giving genuine testimonials and success stories on your website. So the more authentic that these reviews and testimonials can be, the better. One thing we love at Saturn Lounge is incorporating longer form video testimonials, especially if you have a big purchase. So again, you know, the pizza place, the $12 pizza compared to the $50,000. I have no idea how much CNC machines cost, by the way, so I'm assuming they're 50. If anybody sells CNC machines here, just let me know if I'm wrong. The $50,000 CNC machine, right, is going to be a lot bigger purchase. It's a lot longer journey, and so breaking down a long form video testimonial is a great way to kind of instill that confidence, put some faces and some personality and emotion into things. This area of your website should also be regularly updated. If it's not regularly updated, just take that publish date out, but the more content, the more up-to-date content you can put on there, you know, the better message you're going to send to your potential customers. The last thing anybody wants to see is a guy with a clearly living in the 80s giving a testimonial, and perhaps that's the last time you had a good customer interaction. So security and trust. We are in the era of digital transactions and information sharing. If you follow the news for the last, I don't know, 5 years, decade, we know that making a secure online environment is kind of foundational for a good relationship with your audience and building trust for your customers. So first, SSL certificates. This is blocking and tackling in website world today. If you have a broken SSL or don't have an SSL, pretty much any web browser is going to put up a big red flashing sign and say, hey, this is an untrustworthy site, and it makes it pretty much impossible to visit. So typically this is included in your hosting. If it's not included in your hosting, make sure that your SSL is up to date. What you don't want is, oh, I haven't looked at my website for a couple weeks, and oh, a customer called and said, hey, your website has a big red flashing sign that says it's untrustworthy. We don't want to be caught with our pants down there, so just make sure that you have your SSL. Most SSL certificate services will have an auto update, auto renew built into your hosting, so just make sure you have that kind of tied up. And then privacy policies and GDPR, if you operate in the EU, is really important. So just making sure that you have those does allow cookies, warnings, and statements on your website if anybody's looking. For most business card sites, this is a minor detail that is very important. If you're collecting anything like credit card information or personal information, maybe it's personally identifiable information or medical information, there's a whole litany of different things that you're probably going to want to consult a lawyer and compliance specialist on. So, analytics and data-driven decisions. If you have a website now and don't have analytics on it, the first thing you should do when you leave this room is get analytics put on it. If you're building a website, make sure that you have analytics put on it. Google Analytics, if you're a very small business or if you're a huge business, it's the poster child of analytics. It's free, it's comprehensive, it's somewhat easy to use, and it gives you insights on your user behavior where they're coming from, where they're going, how they're interacting with your site, and if they're converting. Looking at that information, understanding where users are engaging with your website, where they're not, where they're bouncing is really important. So above and beyond Google Analytics, Hotjar, Crazy Egg, these are some examples of heat mapping tools. So you can take it a step further from what pages are people visiting to what areas of my page are they hovering over. What links are they clicking specifically? Where are they leaving once they hit the website? And some of those tools are also tied to really great A/B testing tools as well. Utilizing custom goals and events. So again, making sure that you're tracking all of the important experiences on your website. So contact forms, obviously, directions, any kind of those secondary call to actions, white paper downloads, things like that. Those are all important things to track and understand. How, if you're paying to drive traffic, any resources that you're putting into driving traffic, understanding how those channels are performing once they're hitting your website. If you don't have analytics, it's just the blind leading the blind there. You should be reviewing these metrics if you have, if you're an owner-operated company and it's just you. Obviously, you have a lot of things going on, so setting up a dashboard so that you have really easy to digest, quick-hitting information is very important. If you're a marketing manager or have a marketing manager in-house, that person should be reviewing that maybe on a monthly basis, depending on how large your traffic volume is, maybe a weekly, maybe a daily basis if you're working with hundreds of thousands of visits a month. But it's important to regularly review those metrics. And then use that data to fine-tune your strategy. So it's great to know that we've got 50,000 people that are visiting our services page, but what's happening there? Are they going to the contact form? Are they downloading the white paper? If they're not, why aren't they? What channels are people coming from when they're bouncing? Using that information to inform your marketing strategy and how you're utilizing your website. So sometimes it's as simple as, wow, this page is really confusing and the data shows that. So people are bouncing right away or they're just exiting the website entirely. And how can we better serve our customers and better serve our users? But also from a channel perspective, hey, I see that we're sending a lot of Google search traffic through paid campaigns to our website and those people are all leaving. Maybe that's not a product of the information that's on the page, but maybe it's a product of how your paid search campaigns are performing. So using this information to inform not only how you manage your website, but also how you're managing any of your marketing channels is really important. So continuous improvement and regular maintenance. This is a twofold piece. So once your website is launched, just remember that it's not one and done. And if you've got a website that's maybe 5, 7, 8 years old, and you're looking at a very large, drastic redesign, you may want to keep yourself from getting into that position through some gradual improvements throughout time. So leaving your website for 4, 5, 6, 7 years is a really good way to get yourself into a position where you just need to have a full rebuild, redesign. If you're looking at your website on a regular basis, whether that's monthly, quarterly, annually, and understanding what data is telling you and making those updates, making those changes, that's going to keep your website longevity from a few years to a few more years. So like I said, this is a twofold piece here. Keeping the website up to date from a content management perspective and from a technology perspective is incredibly important. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten the call that, hey, the website's broken, we have no idea, and we go in to look at the website and WordPress hasn't been updated in 3 years. The plugins are all out to date. Some of the licenses have expired and everything is just a rat's nest of improvement that's needed. So this takes a lot longer to fix than if we set something up where we're making sure those plugins are up to date on a monthly basis, we're making sure that we're keeping up with the WordPress updates. This is really important not only from a does my website work perspective, but also security. So an out-of-date website, out-of-date plugins leave your website at risk to hacks and things like that. The other side is fresh content, so making sure that you're relevant and up to date, not only from a product and service standpoint, but from a review standpoint to a thought leadership standpoint. Everything in your website ecosystem is important to keep up to date with the newest trends, the newest information. It's going to go a far way in instilling that trust with your audience. What you want to do with your website is to really position yourself as the authority and the go-to trusted resource for all things, whatever you do. Awesome. I ended a little bit early. Do I have any questions? Yes, sir.
Do you specialize in one platform, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever you have? Specialty, and is the work done in-house, onshore, or do you use VAs?
Yeah, so from a social media perspective, we do work across all platforms. What we do from there is really take a moment to understand the business and what the business reasoning behind being on those platforms are. So not every business needs to be on TikTok. Not every business actually needs to be on LinkedIn. And so at least when it comes to a investing time and resources perspective. So what we do when we look at channel selection from a social media perspective, we just understand what your users are looking for and where their mind space is when they're on those platforms, and is it relevant to your business? And we do all our work in-house. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned a publish date when you were talking about emails. Is there a best practice around publish dates for blog content?
Yeah, so the question was, is there a best practice around publish dates for blog content? And that really depends on how often you're updating your blog. So the ideal is, right, that we have 2 blogs a week and these are all flowing regularly. The reality is, maybe some person's wearing 17 hats and they haven't updated their blog in 4 months. Well, it's probably a good time to drop that off. If you go long stretches of time without publishing something, it's a good time to take off the publish date. Also, if it's just inconsistent. So if I published 6 today, but I haven't published anything before that for, let's say, 7 months, if we can't maintain a consistent cadence with blog publishing, let's just take that. No one needs to know, you know. But if you are keeping it up to date and can keep a good cadence, then it's nice to have up there so that people know that this is up to date content. Yes, sir. You had a question in the back.
Yeah, I was wondering about that certificate. If you use somebody like a Squarespace on your website, would they be updating that, or that's kind of?
Yeah, so in regards to SSLs and SSL certificates, most hosting, so Squarespace being a hosting provider, most of your hosting companies today are going to offer that inside of their package. So Squarespace manages that. I believe you probably bought your domain through Squarespace as well. So a really nice feature of Squarespace is kind of holistic, like everything is managed for you. We work primarily on WordPress. I would say 90% of our websites are on WordPress. We partner strategically with a hosting platform called WP Engine. They specialize in managed hosting for WordPress websites, and they not only include the SSL, but include an auto-updating SSL into their websites. So once the website is pushed live, that SSL updates every 3 months. That certificate is always up to date. And if it's not up to date, a managed host will resolve that within whatever the agreement in your service level agreement is. Awesome. Yes?
I was going to ask what you build your websites in, but it sounds
Yeah.
like the majority is WordPress. But do you guys offer a regular optimization program, and what does that entail?
I'm sorry, I missed
Do
the.
you guys offer a regular app, like you're saying it's good to keep things updated?
Yeah.
Do you guys offer that, and what does that entail?
Yeah, so we offer on the importance of keeping your website up to date, we offer a maintenance package that is a blend of content updates as well as the platform updates. So what we build into that is we're making sure that your plugins are up to date, we're making sure that your theme is up to date, and then we're running those scans and validating that all parts of your website are in fact working as expected. And then on top of that, we're keeping backups. So cyber attacks happen, they happen broadly across the internet. No matter how large or small your website is, these things can happen. The important part is to keep that backup, not only often on your hosting, but a secondary backup maybe once a month, just off of the internet and into maybe your business server or something like that, so that you can bring anything back, regardless of if the whole hosting platform has been affected or just your website, your live website. Yes.
Yeah, so we're starting to really look at kind of more like the social media side of things.
Sure.
We just kind of did an evaluation of our websites. But my question would be, is it can be like a slippery slope pretty quick, especially when you start looking at boosting your post and things like where do you invest your money in, and like where's the return on investment? Like, is there a break-even point? Boost your post X amount, like you need to reach X amount of users before it's worth it, or is that just kind of more per business, per industry? Obviously, you guys are like, yeah.
Yeah, no. It is a great question because again, the harsh realities of the business world is that money and time are finite resources, and how can we best spend those strategically? The question was, and I don't know if everybody can hear the questions, but I'll just reiterate them. The question was, when you're looking at boosting posts and boosting posts and content over social, what is the threshold and what is the thought process behind that? And what it comes down to is really putting together that thoughtful content strategy from a holistic point of view. So. Not just looking at what content is out there, but what kind of content. So we look at things like industry resources, to customer testimonials, to use case scenarios, so how to use the product, how to use the service, or how to get the most out of your service. So again, that kind of full funnel approach, and then looking at what content is important to get out there to drive people into that funnel. So it should all kind of work. Well, some people would say top down, some people would say bottom up, but I think it should work bottom up. Look at what your end goal is and how do you get people there. So if the goal is, I want people to hire me to outfit their entire manufacturing facility with CNC machines, I love CNC machines, I'm just gonna. Then what questions are they asking? What is their buying journey like? And how do we get them there? So what questions are they asking when they're looking at outfitting something? What are those awareness level questions? And then how do we get them further down the funnel? So if you've got a really kind of like buying guide, high level piece of content that you can utilize to start to get people into your funnel, that's where you can start to target, and this goes like maybe into the boosted post world, but you can start to target those users and get them into your funnel. And then if you have something like, here's how our service really impacted the bottom line of this production facility, you can use retargeting to re-engage those users that have already seen your helpful content and are already familiar with your brand, and just really kind of re-engage with them and reinforce your position as the trusted authority. Especially with large purchases, users are doing a ton of research. I mean, I think I spent 15 hours before I bought my running shoes. So think about buying like a $500,000 service for your business. People are doing hours and hours of research to make sure, most people are doing hours and hours of research before they're making a decision like that. And if you can give them that content, if you can give them that education, they're going to be much more likely to pick up the phone and call when it's time to actually pull the trigger. Yes, sir.
Kind of going off of her question, I'm guessing that she was referring to Facebook boosting ads. Do you have a relationship with Facebook that you can speak with an actual person, or is it
Yes.
hit and miss, throw everything else?
I have a love and hate relationship with Meta. Talk to a real person, yes. When you are so the way that Meta ads works is as soon as you build that business page, that business manager account, and you have an ad account, you start at the low tier. They may not and they may not connect with you, but you'll have something available. The more ad spend you spend, the more, the higher up the chain you get to talk to. Just know that the chain doesn't go anywhere near to the top. So there's always a concierge service to speak with to resolve any of those issues. I've used our relationship with Facebook to get my personal Facebook unlocked from time to time. And so it's helpful, right? Just anytime, and this goes for Facebook, for Google Ads, anytime you're speaking to a specialist on an ad platform, keep in mind that their job is to get you to spend as much money as possible on their platform. So they're not necessarily, that's not to say that they have any kind of malintent, right? But their goal isn't to give you the best return on investment. It's to give you enough return on investment or to get you to confidently spend money on their platform. So it's important to take that information that they give you with a grain of salt. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm really new at this boosting your post thing
Sure.
for my business. And so I paid a little bit of money, right, to boost it. And so it says, oh, you're gonna get exposure to 3,500 or whatever.
Sure.
And then at the end, when I looked, it was like 18 people. So is that a matter of the content that I boosted, or is that them wanting me to spend more money on the next level?
So you've set up an ad campaign and it said it was going to reach 15,000 people, and you reached 18, and why is that happening? So Facebook has a lot of technology, a lot of algorithm in it, working to show your ad to the people that are most likely to engage, because they're not just trying to take your money. They want to serve your ad to the people that it thinks are going to be the most relevant for that type of content, right? So sometimes your targeting might be too tight. Like, I really only want to speak to 35 to 36-year-old women that live in Brookfield, that own a Lexus, and work in a C-suite, right? That's pretty specific. The broader out sometimes that you go, the more people you can reach. What happens with that is it runs into a saturation. Hey, we've shown this ad to the same 150 people 17 times. We're not going to show it anymore. They've seen it too much. That's called ad fatigue. So sometimes if you're running the same ad for a long time and spent a lot of money and you have just a finite audience, refreshing that ad content is important. But take a look at your targeting as well. It could be a budget thing. It could be a number of things with Meta and why that would be happening.
It only happened to me once.
Sure. Yeah. And sometimes just getting a second pair of eyes on it, you know. Just anybody that's run ads on the campaign, you know, I'd be happy to connect and take a look, have our team take a look for you. Yes, ma'am.
That's actually funny. Hey, Xavier, I'm her social media manager, so definitely.
Uh-oh.
I have a question. So they use a website and they don't have a built-in email campaign tool.
Sure.
Do you have any best recommended apps to use? I'm most familiar with Wix, so somewhere you can do those capabilities and design like that. Do you know it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question was an email automation or email marketing tool. MailChimp is awesome. If you're starting small and you've got a small list, I think MailChimp is like free to the first 1,000 people or something. So MailChimp is, and it's really easy to use. Compared to a lot of the different, and it's got great sending. So if you're sending to 1,000 people or less, or 10,000 people or less, MailChimp's a great place to start. And it does scale really well too. So if you're just starting out and you've got 1,000 people on your list, but you're hoping to grow to 50,000, 100,000, MailChimp is something that you can grow and scale with. If you're a larger corporation and have maybe some more stringent needs on that, there are a lot of different platforms, but it's just starting out. I think MailChimp is a great place.
And does MailChimp, does it allow you to, like, is it just basic emails, or you can design, like, add
So you can do your own HTML designs on those emails, but if you're not if you're not an email developer, I would recommend against trying to develop HTML emails. Those things can get really messy, and they might look okay on a preview, but they might not look okay on, John's 95 Windows Explorer, Windows Outlook client. So if you are developing your own emails, there is a great platform called Litmus that you can drop your code into, and it will do checks for all devices, all email clients, and make sure that those are rendering correctly. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering if you could talk about ADA compliance a little bit and alt text. Working with some people, it's like you want to make more of an image to make it look more visual on the site, but then if there's a lot of text, then trying to kind of navigate that balance. So I'm interested in your perspective of what you advise in that space.
So the question is on ADA compliance, which is a large concept, and specifically on alt text for images. So picture this, right? You've got 3 just huge hero images on a page and then 1 paragraph of text. Well, to a screen reader, that is going to show up as 3 small alt texts and then a paragraph of text. So what my stance is on alt text is just to be as authentic as possible with it, and describe that image as accurately and as in-depth as possible, where you can close your eyes and picture what's happening in the image. So if it's a young woman wearing a green blouse eating a vegetarian salad, that's what you should put as the alt text. That's going to be a lot of the instances. Now, if you have a little bit more technical, this is the spindle of a 5-axis CNC machine. You should also describe what brand that is, if the brand is visible on there. So just in regards to ADA compliance, pretend that you have a friend that you're describing that image to that can't see that image, and do as much detail as possible. If you can throw a keyword in there, it helps too for SEO.
Just to follow up, so you're not necessarily saying don't put the more complicated images on the site, but just make sure that you do a really in-depth description, and that's really important to your site.
Yeah, absolutely. I would never let ADA compliance hinder me from putting complicated, especially if you have a complicated product. I mean, you've got schematics on your website from time to time. Describe those in as much detail as possible, because you can pretty easily I shouldn't say that. ADA compliance has a lot of different levels, right? So having a speaker system and describing a speaker system is one thing, but if your users are truly in that position of needing that alt text, do them justice by describing as accurately, as relevantly as possible, right? So if it's not important that I call out that the speaker system is black, then I don't need to. But maybe it's important that I call out that it's hooked into a PA, I don't know what the word for these things are, PA system, and it's got this brand on it. So call out the important things.
Can I ask one more follow-up?
Sure.
Sorry. Does that make a difference in terms of Google and like?
It does.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's in the alt text is going to really help be a factor then in terms of the level card?
So as Google evolves, it's getting eyes. It can interpret the things that are on your page from an image perspective, but Google's like a really, really complicated lazy person in that the more information that you can spoon feed it, the better. So for example, right, like Google is perfectly capable of crawling your 15,000 page website pretty quickly. I mean, it can do it. It has the technology. But if you give it a sitemap to lay out the organization of your website, an XML sitemap, right? And you say, hey, this is how these are the important pages, and this is how regularly these pages are updated. All of a sudden, Google's gonna say, yeah, I'd much rather crawl this site that has a nice table of contents for me than this site that's like, hey, here's 15,000 pages and just read them. So the more that you can spoon feed to search engines, the more reward you're gonna get. That's just a great rule of thumb. It's not always 100% accurate, but it's a good rule of thumb to follow. You had a question, ma'am?
I just had a comment. My previous job was at a public library, and I just wanted to comment that a lot of the libraries with your library card, at least I know in Waukesha and Jefferson County, they have a free online learning tool called Udemy. It has a lot of informative courses on typing, engine optimization,
Yeah.
social media, marketing, all different levels. It's learners, on-demand learning. They're free, so I would take it.
That's a great comment. I appreciate that. I actually credit, I'd say like 25 to 27% of my career to courses like Udemy and lynda.com back when Lynda was a thing. So there's a lot of great online resources to learn some of these things. When you're thinking about like social media or SEO, some great resources from an SEO perspective is Moz, M-O-Z. I don't have the sticker. Moz is what I've used to guide me in my SEO journey. So there's a lot of fantastic information there that'll help you get started. A lot of great social media examiner, a lot of different blogs that are great to read as well. Udemy has really great courses that are kind of perfectly curated to get you started on that journey as well. And they're free at the Waukesha Public Library.
If you have a library in Waukesha and Jefferson County.
I think Milwaukee probably as well. So great, that's great information.
UDEMY.
Cool. Yes, ma'am.
Just one more SEO question. So our CRM has landing page functionality or capability. Is there a negative impact to SEO if we're creating landing pages through the CRM versus creating new pages on our WordPress site?
Are they on your root? So clarifying questions. What is the CRM that you're using? Perfect. Okay, so are you using them on the domain? Or are you using them? Perfect. No, probably not. So the question was, hey, I've got HubSpot. We're using HubSpot to create these landing pages. That's great. And you're maybe A/B testing those landing pages. That's great. Does it have a negative SEO effect? Really, no. You've got fresh content that's on your site. It's changing. If you're cannibalizing some of your content, it might have less impact than maybe it would if you were just having one page of content, but really it's not going to be a big negative. With SEO, with all things digital marketing, and I think all things marketing, a lot of the answer is like, it depends. And I think people love and hate that answer because it gives a lot of flexibility, but also it can have there's a lot of different factors that go into it, but from a broad perspective, having your landing pages on your domain through a different CRM or through HubSpot and then having the rest of your website on WordPress, it doesn't matter. The CMS doesn't really affect how the web pages are read if they're on your domain. Cool. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Thinking about how you guys build WordPress sites most often, what's your take on using like the native Gutenberg editor versus like Elementor, Builder, and off the shelf?
Oh, are you a ringer? Are you here to give the hard questions? So the question is WordPress. There's a lot of different flavors on how to build a WordPress site. Gutenberg being a native editor. There are others. So the way have I not been using this the whole time? The way that these pages are put together, there are a lot of different mechanisms that can be used to do this. The native within WordPress is one. Also, Divi or Elementor are what we call page builders, and these are a little bit more visual, right? So you can just kind of drag, hey, I want a header image here, drag the header image. I want a text box here, okay, drag the text box. And then there's customizing page templates and using like an advanced custom fields to put in custom content. So you can really customize your back end experience quite a bit. And the answer is, what do I think about any of those? And the answer is, it depends. Because the reality with page builders is a lot of code goes into making it so easy that you can just drag and drop things over. Unnecessary code can lead to what we call code bloat, which can take some additional time for web pages to load. It's gotten a lot better. Also, those page builders, if you want to do some complicated things or have some complicated layouts, sometimes can be harder to deal with if you're an actual developer. I don't want to demean anybody that's building WordPress websites without development, but if you don't have as much development experience, those things can be quite a bit easier to use. What I would say is, who's going to be managing the content on a regular basis, and what is their preferred experience? So if you have somebody that's not a developer, an HTML, CSS, PHP developer, don't give them something that they have to go into the back and edit some JavaScript and edit some files to actually update. Give them something that they can drag and drop. So whenever we go into a WordPress, a website project, one of the first questions we ask is, who's going to be updating the content and what is their experience level with this platform? We build that experience around there so that they're able to manage their own destiny from a website perspective. Does that answer? Cool. That was a hard one. All right, I think I'm coming up on time here. Any last questions? Awesome. Well, I have business cards. If anybody has additional questions or wants, Saturn Lounge to look at anything, please let me know. I think we can send this out afterwards as well. So thank you all.